and welcome to the big story here on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. I'm Zainab Balogun Olu. Today on the big story, we look at the face-off between Dangote Refinery and NUPENG over alleged anti-union practices. Now, the Minister of Labour and Employment, Mohammed Dingyadi, has rescheduled today's tripartite meeting intended to resolve the dispute between the management of Dangote Refinery and the Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, NUPENG, over alleged anti-union practice. The meeting was said to have been rescheduled because of the absence of NUPENG, but the date for the new meeting is yet to be stated. Now, NUPENG had issued a strong warning that beginning today, Monday, September 8th, it will embark on a nationwide strike over Dangote Petroleum Refinery's decision to deploy 4,000 new CNG trucks for direct fuel distribution, while allegedly asking drivers to stay away from union membership. NUPENG insists it is a violation of workers' constitutional right to freely associate, and the union says it will resist what it calls anti-labor practices. Many groups, including the Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria, Petroleum, the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, Pengasan, Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners, NATO, have thrown their weight behind NUPENG. Today on the big story, we'll be looking at the legality or illegality of this, what this means for the oil and gas sector, and if this is simply about protecting workers' rights or it goes deeper. Joining me to shed more light on this issue, I have two guests. I have Mr. Ayodele Oni, an oil and gas expert who is also a lawyer. Good evening, Mr. Oni. It's great to have you on the program.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. We also have the president of the National Association of Road Transport Owners, NATO. We have Mr. Yusuf Uthman. Good evening, Mr. Yusuf. It's great to have you on the program. Mr. Yusuf, can you hear me? All right, we'll try to reconnect with Mr. Yusuf, but let me begin with you, Mr. Oni. And so let's start with the legality of this, right? What Dangote Refinery is doing and what NUPENG is also doing on their own part. And so Dangote Refinery is restricting its drivers of the trucks from joining, the the union, that's NUPENG. NUPENG, on the other hand, is also, going on strike because of this action. The fact that you're saying, well, it's against international laws and labor practices, not allowing these unions, these persons to, have unions, to associate themselves in these unions. So how legal is what, Dangote Refinery is doing, and how legal is what NUPENG, on the other hand, is doing?
Okay, so the truth is that constitutionally, and if you look at things like the African Charter of Human and People's Rights, if you look at Trade Unions Act, I think Section 12 in particular, you are entitled to join those associations. Now, question then is whether or not you can waive your right. Membership is not obligatory. Membership is voluntary, in my view. I do not think that you cannot waive your right. If I have a right, I can decide to waive that right and not exercise it. Now, you then get to the point to ask whether Dangote making it a condition to employment is not coercing them to waive their right, which is a different conversation, generally speaking. And it will always be more than one side to that sort of argument. So yes, constitutionally, they have the right protected. Whether it's the African Charter on Human and People's Rights or Human and People's Rights, whether it's the Trade Unions Act, they do have the right to join the union. Now, question is, can they waive their right? Yes. How can they be coerced to waive their right? It's an entirely different question. And I would say yes, and maybe no to the last question. No, they shouldn't be coerced to waive their right. But yes, they can waive their right. Yes, they can be entitled to a freedom of association. Yes, they are entitled to join those associations, but not obliged to join those associations. That's my own view generally. But the jury is still out on the last one in particular, whether you can actually say they are coerced, and if they are being coerced, what's the ultimate result?
Okay.
Those are my initial thoughts.
All right. I'll come back to you. I think we have Mr. Uthman. Mr. Uthman, can you hear me?
Yes, good evening.
Good
I can hear you
evening.
loud.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Okay, so where do we begin? The strike action, did you join today? Did that strike action actually hold today? Let's begin with that.
Help and the owner of the truck cannot drive the truck, so the driver. So if the drivers are on strike, ultimately the owner of the truck is also stopped, whether he is willing or is not willing. But in this case, we are willing to key in because we are in solidarity with them, their demands. We also have our demands as regards the operation of these CNG trucks. Just
Okay,
like we portrayed
Mr.
in our
Uthman,
letter.
could you speak up a little bit? I'm struggling to hear you. It's not as
Yes,
audible.
yes. I said once a driver is parked, you are parked as
Okay,
the owner of a truck.
okay.
So therefore, we have keyed in and is willing keying in because we also have our issues as regards the operations of the CNG trucks, just like we put in our press release. As far as NATO is concerned, we are very much interested and welcome the addition of new trucks into distribution system by whoever. And of course, we feel and we no doubt are very happy with that development. However, what came out from the company is what we expected because in the flyer they said that they are going to eliminate distribution. And where are the people distributing? So they are going to eliminate us. And that is not a good development for everybody. Why? Because hitherto fuel is distributed across the country by trucks by our members. And we have about 20 to 30,000 trailers all across the country. Ownership of the truck is across the country, across all strata, the big, the middle, and the small. And we have workers, drivers, second driver, motor boys, all across the country. We have garages all across the country, service providers all across the country. Now, we have agreements, both formal and informal, with many major marketers, depot owners, and based on which we collected finances from banks, both foreign and local, with a view to do this franchise. So here, Big Brother comes one day, all of us would go for the benefit of him alone. That is not right for us. We felt there should be a win-win situation wherein we live and let live. For example, when Lagos State government brought BRT buses, they didn't clear away the dumper buses. When Lagos State government brought those tipper for refuse collections, they didn't clear away the old ones. You can clear away in phases, but not just one day. You say, okay, because I'm a big brother and I have economics of scale, I'm going to do free. And it's not free because we cannot do free, just to clear the existing. And in any case, even if somebody is willing, we cannot do it free. And if we cannot do it free, the trucks that the company brought are not adequate to meet the national demand. So there will be a vacuum. So these are the issues that we have at stake with this in this development, and we are compelled to key in. Thank you.
Okay. So yours is not just about they joining the union. Yours is about the jobs of your own truck owners. What happens to them, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'll come back to you on that. Let me take you back to Mr. Oni, and you could also shed more light on what he has said. But let me take you back to the legality of this now, and let me just read what this section 40 of the Constitution says. It says, the right to assemble and associate. That's what section 40 of the Constitution upholds. It upholds the right to assemble and associate. For Section 9, subsection 6 of the Labour Act, it prohibits employers from forcing workers to either join or refrain from joining a union. Now, for the truck drivers, right, that joined or is working with Dangote Refinery, if it says don't join the union. So it's left to them to work for him or not. So if they're working for him, it means maybe they are okay, with that, on one hand. On the other hand, we have NUPENG, fighting for the rights of this person, saying, oh, Dangote doesn't want them to associate, who will protect their rights and the rest of it. So should NUPENG also be fighting for them if they decide, no, we do not want to be? In fact, they call it the Direct Trucking Company Drivers Association. And they said they are refraining from, the strike action, and that they are not a union, they are an association and the rest of it. So should NUPENG also, be carrying their headache on their head if they decide, oh, we want to work and we're not joining a union? Should they be forcing them as well to join a union? Like we have said, they have the freedom to associate. And, for Dangote himself, if he says this, for those workers to also join, is it left to them to join or to leave, his company if they are not okay with, the rules that he has set?
But remember, you just read something in the Constitution and in the relevant Trade Unions Act. The truth is that you cannot force them to join or tell them not to join. I think that you'd have to dimension it. Are they already employees, or are they within their rights at the point of becoming employed? Remember, until you sign your contract of employment, you are not an employee. Right, you can have conversations and all of that. At the point you sign, you become an employee. So is it prior to being an employee that they choose to waive their right? Because what everybody may be failing to realize is whether after they become employees, they can say we want to join, and whether he cannot statutorily stop them. It's a bit of a web, right? But I think constitutionally he can't generally stop them. But if they say they want to set up another union, that then opens some space for them to say, well, this is our own union or this is our own association, because we have the right to join or not to join. If they're happy enough to start their own association, you really can't also accuse them. But of course, you can always go behind the scene and you can say that just the way you have, you can terminate someone's contract of employment constructively, is the way you can maybe constructively also breach the Constitution without doing it expressly. So if you say to me, these are the conditions for you to continue to work with us, and you say not joining X union, then it then means that you can say constructively. So the arguments for and against, to be honest, but I think that there are strong arguments on both sides, and we may actually end up in court. What the preferred interpretation is. Constitutionally, you can't stop people from joining associations, but they can waive their right. That's where the cookie crumbles with that argument around constitutionality. I can have a right to freedom of association and never join any association. I can have freedom to assemble and never assemble. Right? It's a freedom. It's not an obligation. It's not a mandatory thing.
So that's left to the individual, right, Mr. Oni, and not
yes.
a particular group of people working in a company being stopped, from joining an association. So it should be if the individual is deciding, I'm not joining, right?
Yeah, if the individual says I'm not joining, then you can force him to join. In fact, there's nothing any other law can say, because the Constitution is the ground norm. Any law that is inconsistent with the Constitution is null and void to the extent of risk. It's inconsistent. So when the Constitution says you have the freedom to join, it means you also have the freedom not to join. So if it's their choice, then no one can hold them. But if it's not their choice, that's when you begin to now have the conversation around were they coerced, were they not, was it at the point of employment, was it after employment, what happens after employment, can they not say they want to join without any repercussion? Those are the conversations you have.
Okay, so is it legal what NUPENG is also doing, now saying, oh, they're going on strike because of this?
NUPENG can't go on strike. They are just rules that have been set forth both in particularly in the law and their own rules, right? So there is a process. I do not think for the process to the latter, but I do not think, because I haven't followed it 100%. So if they have, then they're going to go on strike. Now, whether their strike is legitimate, it's a different conversation, right? On someone else's headache, particularly when the person says they're not joining. I think the debate will be maybe the constitutional debate that there is constructively preventing them. And the trade unions are constitutionally, you cannot prevent a person. There are limits to those things, right? One, you can contract do, you can waive your right. Two, if you check the constitution, you can derogate from people's rights if it's going to lead to breaching other people's rights. So if other people have the right to associate, because you have the right to associate, you can't prevent them from having their own association, which is not necessarily your own association. Okay. So yeah, that's the way I see it.
All right. Before I come back to Mr. Usman now, I'd like you to also touch on what Mr. Usman said, because he said this is not just about the union. It's also looking out for the truck drivers as well. And he said, he coming into the market, this would also, take away, this will cause job losses, for persons in other, he talked about NATO and other persons who, are involved in this work. So what's your thoughts on that situation?
I see his point. I see it's a very valid point. I think the challenge around antitrust, challenge around when you have power because of economics of scale, or you have the financial behemoth, it becomes a concern. And those issues have been dealt with internationally, like when you had Microsoft, and when you had Standard Oil become like 34 other companies, So yes, the issue now is for the regulator to do its job. The regulator has done his checks and found out that nothing is amiss. The other thing will then be to approach the judiciary, to approach the courts. So my own view is that yes, people shouldn't necessarily lose their jobs. But when you go into business, to be honest, you take a market risk. A businessman, to be balanced, you take a market risk. What do you mean by taking a market risk? Technology can change, market dynamics can change, and that can even render your business redundant, right? Imagine that I've invested so much in diesel truck, I bought 10,000 diesel trucks. Suddenly, for business or for transportation, now there are CNG trucks that will do or 3/4 of what I will do. Those will be more competitive than I will be, right? It's whatever is left in the market, and these crumbs, right, that I then have to feed off. So I see his point, and it's made very valid, very, very valid point. But people would also then ask, isn't it some of these guys that have moved? Because if it's about 4,000, it then means that some people would move to him, and also I'm not even sure he can cover the entire market. There will still be that opportunity.
All right.
But
yeah, I'll come back to you. So let me take it to Mr. Uthman on this. Mr. Uthman, so are you saying that from what you've said, they would lose businesses, and from your first statement, you said 30,000 truck drivers. This could lead to a loss and investment and the rest of it. So are we saying that because of this, Dangote Refinery should not start to distribute a fuel? They should just stay with refining, because he's trying to look out for, you said he's a big brother, and so he's trying to look out for his younger ones. Is that enough reason for him not to be able to diversify, in the market? And is it just from Dangote that you're getting fuel? Because I know, there's the NNPC as well. And so the truck owners could also still be getting fuel from there and also still, distributing. And is Dangote also stopping you from also getting fuel from him and distributing to people that you want to distribute to as well?
Look, Section 212 of the PIA Act states very clearly you cannot use license for refining be the same license for distribution. They have to be at arm's length. So even when you tell your brother to do it, it's not arm's length. It's subject to contest in any case. So the NMPRA has written to the Dangote, they've written to us that he cannot via Section 212. That's number one. Number two,
sorry, Mr. Osman, to cut you to button now. Did you say the NMDPRA wrote to you that he cannot?
Yes, wrote to us and him.
Okay.
That under Section 212 of the PIA Act, you cannot use the same license of the refining and come down to do distribution. It has to be at arm's length.
Okay.
So that is aside.
All right.
What we are saying, we are going to lose investment because he said he's going to do it free of charge. FTC and is going to do it, and he cannot do free of charge. We know it's just a ploy to clear everybody away. So that way is monopolistic and antitrust, just like my brother said. The third one, even, which is not legal in any case, but you, by the time everybody collapses, either somebody who refines, who stores, who distributes, who will eventually have filling station. Where is the energy security of the country when you surrender everything to one person? Don't forget, this fight is not for today. It's for, not for today, tomorrow, and next tomorrow. Nigeria will live forever. We are going to live for a certain time in life, but we do not. We have to leave some structure that is good. What in the last year, Elon Musk was in good terms with Donald Trump. Today, they are not in good terms. What is the guarantee that if today they are not in good terms with whoever, and tomorrow they are in good terms, and what if his hair may not be in good terms to the hair of the government in the future? That's one. Two, also there are NNPC refineries that are going to come up. Delta also one of the states have its own refinery. Boa is going to have its refinery. So by the time they all come up and he has cornered the market, will they able to be able to penetrate? We're talking about monopoly and competition. We are not saying that somebody should not come in. Just like you're asking me, are we saying he should not come? We're not saying he should not come in, but we want to live and let live. Because if in the next 2-3 years, most of these people that have all these trucks, they will leave the street and live for him, so that he will reign forever. If you even want to change the name of the country to whatever, it's not our bloody business.
But
Our
Mr.
business is
Osman,
energy security.
is this not now supposed to create competition, right? Because since we say it's a deregulated sector, you can, except for that part that you said, you cannot use a refining license, which is true.
Check it, 212.
Yes,
it is
I know
that said it. So what is there? You have to respect it.
Okay, but what if he's able to get the distribution license as well? Would you still say? Would you still, stop him, or would you still say, "Oh, it's not allowed"?
The idea of saying so is because he does not have the distribution license, and they don't want to give. They want to have competition, and they don't want to surrender the energy security to a particular person who will refine, who will store, who will distribute, and retail. There is a reason for this in the PIA Act. In any case, we are law-abiding persons. If today the man says you guys go and hang up, go and scrap your vehicles, let it be. The Nigerians will go and do other alternative means of livelihood if there is. We leave it. Whatever government decides to do is we will respect it. We have taken our case up to the government. Look at this thing. What do you advise? Tell us, go and park your vehicles. We'll go and park the vehicle. I believe 4,000 trucks are not adequate. So what's the solution?
So if you say
provide a solution,
Mr. Osman, if you say 4,000 is not adequate, right? So it still gives a chance to others in the market. So why is it that there is still that?
How can
issue?
the others do free? Others cannot do free because they don't have the economics of scale.
So the problem.
I don't know whether you understand what I'm saying. The argument. It's not even the CNG. I have CNG trucks myself. Difference between in cost, even in the operational cost, it's not more than 20-30%. CNG just increased price to 450 per standard cubic meter. When you add it all up, the difference is no more than 20,000-30,000.
All right. I'll come back to you, Mr. Osman. Let me take it to Mr. Oni. Mr. Oni, your thoughts on this? Because we've been hearing, it's becoming a monopoly and the rest of it, but they're also still giving licenses, to people. And so if people are also coming up, they can do what they also need to do, if we're talking about refining and the rest of it. So are we really saying he's trying to, make that sector, or he's trying to monopolize, that sector? And is it also, fair to him if he has the resources to do this, but we're saying, well, you should not, because you should think about other people in the industry. Now, what if he doesn't have that distribution license? Should he be distributing? I think I asked you the 3-in-1 question.
Okay.
Yeah.
To be honest, if you look at the law, the holder of a license is not supposed to even acquire interest in purchase or merge with another holder without the consent of the authority. That's one. Also, if you are going to be doing stuff with an affiliate, it has to be that you take into consideration transfer pricing, and you must act transparently on arm's length basis, and it has to reflect the pricing principles in the law. Now, have those been met? I will not factually know. Factually, I don't know if he has sense if it doesn't. But the truth is that if he doesn't have, then it shouldn't be. But I suspect that he has. I know some of the lawyers who advise, and they are smart, strong lawyers. Yes, I know businessmen at times do not listen to what their lawyers say. So he's right. I mean, my colleague is right that it's a very delicate issue. He also has a point, monopoly, because the problem with monopoly is in the initial term, everyone might be happy. It might seem like it's a freebie, and then you now find out later, subsequently, that person determines your price, and the day he feels, oh, the price should be double, it's double, and you really can't do anything. In fact, it's because of the protection of consumer that you typically want to avoid monopoly. Right, so I'm of the view as a businessman that you just have to be competitive, right? And you are taking a risk, a market risk as a businessman. If the market dynamics change, it affects you. But in doing that, I think the government, the regulator in particular, have to protect businesses and the consumers ultimately. Because if the monopoly, consumers are ultimately going to suffer. They may think they're enjoying initially, but because the way monopoly works, it looks good, it looks free, it looks cheap in the first instant. Everybody is out because they can't compete, they can't even make profit. Then after that monopolistic person now determines output, prices, all of that, and everyone suffers.
But Mr.
That's
Oni,
one angle.
whose fault is that? I remember when he started, he talked
okay,
about 20% to the
I'm neither
federal
for
government.
nor against. Sister, I'm neither for nor against. I'm just saying that there's more than one way to look at it. That's one way. And that first way that I've said around monopoly is government, is regulators' role. I'm not going to play the regulators' role for them. The other bit, if I'm a businessman and I have such an advantage, I'll use it. Right? You will use it, and you talk about economics of scale. You will talk about business risk, market risk, that everybody took a market risk. I took a market risk, taking $20 billion or whatever from the bank. I'm thinking of the arguments on the other side too. So it's now left for the government to determine which is right, which is wrong. Government stroke the courts. And when I say government, I mean the regulator. Now, Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority to determine which is right, which is wrong, what we should or shouldn't do, right? So refining is a different conversation. For me, refining, there are clear rules in the law. How you refine, the issues around backward integration, that at some point you do not import anymore, as long as you can sufficiently do that, right? But in terms of distribution and distribution channels, the law is very clear and on licensing and what should be done. In terms of whether there's monopoly or not, or whether there's monopoly, is neither here nor there, because there's the common man's sentiment, right? If it's going to be cheaper, the common man would rather have that. However, you also have to look at it in the long term. Is it sustainable? Is it likely to lead to monopoly such that the common man who thought was happy is not going to suffer in the long term? Take an example. CNG prices increased from around, was it 380 to 450, 500, 550 maybe?
From 230 to 350, then 450 for trucks. Yeah.
Exactly. So if you see those on, you then ask yourself the question: what would happen when it's now only one person? So it's neither here nor there. There are sentiments for, there are sentiments against. Well, you can channel and marshal your own arguments. Okay. That's my view, and I'm not for or against any party.
Yeah, because some persons have said, well, it's not stopping anybody from giving licenses. So if other people too can come in and compete, give them licenses as well. There are people who have licenses, but we're still waiting on that. The federal government had 20%, but the federal government could not meet up to their own end of the bargain, for Dangote. And some persons are looking at, okay, if it's free distribution, it's going to be free for us at the pump. That's what some other persons are looking at, and so they are wondering, how is that a monopoly? But let me take it back to Mr. Usman as we try to wrap up now. So what happens, in this situation? The federal government was supposed to meet with NUPENG and Dangote Refinery. Reports said that maybe NUPENG was absent, or maybe they were trying to catch a flight. I don't know what exactly. So what if, they meet and still Dangote Refinery is saying, they will go ahead with what has been planned? What will be the fate of, NATO that is also backing NUPENG, and what's your expectation, from the regulators going forward?
Well, as we speak, the meeting is ongoing.
Okay. So it has not been rescheduled?
Yes,
okay.
The meeting is currently going on.
Okay.
And like I told you, we are going to put our cards on the table. And whatever is decided, we will respect it.
Okay.
But I have told you our fears. And I know the talks that are going to be deployed will not be adequate for the service. I'm also aware that he has been written just like we have been written. We have been written and they copied that his license for refining cannot be used simultaneously for distribution. It has to be at arm's length, just like my brother, a learned person, buttressed. And let me also inform you, the combined investment of the downstream stakeholders is much more than the investment of that Songo refinery. There are a lot of stakeholders who have invested in depots, trucks, stations.
Okay, Mr. Usman, because we would have to go now. But what will be the impact if eventually, this strike action continues? What's going to be the impact on the people?
I wouldn't know, but like we are law abiding. We are going to respect whatever government says. We have put our cards on the table, and we expect the government to be freely frank and fair to all of us, especially this government.
All right. Thank you so much.
That's what I will say.
Thank you so much, Mr. Usman. Mr. Oni, 30 seconds. What's going to be the impact of this strike action? They said they have started today, but if it continues, what will be the impact?
Of course, if it continues, we'll begin to see the effect in terms of availability of products. Because I'm not sure how far gone those 4,000 trucks. One, I don't even think 4,000 trucks will suffice. Two, so there's the gap, right, in the market. So that's what it is. It won't be as biting as if we did not have a Dangote, but I think that we will ultimately feel it, actually. We will ultimately feel it. It's just that it won't be as terrible as it would have been if it didn't exist. So everyone just needs to act cautiously, right? And have the citizenry in mind. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ayodele Oni, oil and gas expert, also a lawyer. We do appreciate your expertise on this matter. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Yusuf Uthman, President in NATO. We hope that, there is a favorable negotiation and, you get to, how do I put it now? A mutual ground, so that at the end of the day, we don't see this strike action continue. But we do appreciate your time on the program as well. Thank you. All right, and we have been speaking on the face-off between NUPENG and Dangote refineries, talking about, anti-union practices. We'll take some messages, and you can join me on the round table. I'm Zainab Balogun Olu.
Since 1894, we've witnessed the evolution of a nation and proudly partner with its people on their path to prosperity. From the ink-stained ledgers to fast transactions, First Bank has consistently adapted, embracing innovation and making giant strides across the globe. It's not just about banking, it's about enabling your success, generation after generation. Our legacy defying the past,